Most visitors crossing Telford's bridge over the Menai Straits are off to sail on or swim in Anglesea's translucent water, or perhaps attempting to find one of the many hidden beaches along the coastline, or even delve into 700 years of history at Beaumaris Castle. Today, however, the bulk of the traffic has gone to Newborough Forest in the south of the island, where Llanwyn Lighthouse commands a spectacular view over Snowdonia, and it marks the end of Newborough Beach, where over 1,000 athletes have gathered for one of the highlights of the triathlon season. Welcome to the Sandman Triathlon, powered by Sunto. This race is the second in the annual Always Aim Tri Series, 3 classic multi-terrain events set in North Wales. We've already seen the Slate Man in Llanberis, while the Snowman, which takes place at Capel Curig, is later in the season. Every one of these 3 events offers a weekend of triathlon for competitors of all ages, and this one, the Sandman, kicks off on the Saturday with the junior races. Part of the Tri-Start programme, there are different distances, different age groups, but the same enthusiasm. For the adults, there are 2 races this weekend, the shorter sprint event taking place on Saturday, the full Sandman Triathlon on Sunday. We start with the sprint. A 400-metre swim gets it underway. That will be followed by 25 kilometres on the bike, and then a very tough 5-kilometre run through the forest and over the sand dunes to finish. For some, that isn't enough, and a few of these competitors are taking part in the sprint today and will be on the start line for the full Sandman tomorrow. Anyone who completes both races earns the title of Sandman Savage, and Phil Lines is one of 25 athletes who will be competing for that title. And the winners will be the man and woman with the lowest total time over both events. On the bike, though, it's another Savage competitor, Greg Cherry, leading the way, finally holding off the challenge of Andrew Nash on the run to take the win in the sprint event and start his 2-race challenge in style.
I raced the standard distance last year, just on the Sunday, really enjoyed it. When I heard they were going to do the Savage, I thought, while my enthusiasm is sky high, I thought I'll enter both of them now, and then I'll just deal with it when we get to the weekend.
Second goes to Andrew Nash, with Lines in third, 4 minutes or so off the pace, and that sets up an intriguing battle with Greg Cherry in the Savage. Helen Talbot wins the women's sprint, and like Cherry, she can go into Sunday's race with a slim advantage and bags of confidence.
Well, I did the Savage at Slate Man, and I just about managed to cope with that. My 2 sisters are competing, so I've got to beat them as well.
The most prestigious race of the weekend is, of course, part 2 of the Savage, the full Sandman Triathlon. And those looking for a podium in that will have spent Saturday with their feet up and their pulse rates down, and certainly not wearing themselves out in the sprint. Sunday morning brings the big names out to play as the athletes gather for the full distance Sandman. The full race is part of the Always Aim Tri Series, a competition with a unique prize. The man and woman with the lowest cumulative time over the full distance Slate Man, Sandman and Snowman events wins a trip to the Nevis Triathlon, held on the Caribbean island of Nevis. Having won the Slate Man already, Ewan Brown has a 2-minute 58-second lead over the fast improving Lewis Eccleston, and a 3-minute 9-second advantage over the ever-present threat of the strong swimming Alex Foster. Brown is the defending champion in this series, though. He's lethally fast on the final discipline, and for the last 2 years he has been the man to beat.
Hoping that my legs are still there, so now we're on a good run, but who knows when it'll come to an end, but you can only do what you can do.
Lewis Eccleston will certainly be wanting a trip to the Caribbean, and after his efforts at the Slate Man, where he finished in an impressive 2nd place, only a couple of minutes off the pace, he is certainly in a position to challenge.
I did the sprint race last year. I did really well in it, and obviously did the Slate Man a few months ago. I'll come here today to see what I can do.
A man we've seen before on the Always Aim Tri Series is James Hockin. He'll be flying the Welsh flag today. He can run a bit, and if he's in contention at T2, it could be his day.
This is one of the toughest races about. I enjoy the hilly courses, and hope it's going to be another tough one today.
So the distance is 1,000 metres in the water, 60 kilometres on the bike, 10 kilometres running through the forest and along the beach. It is a tough finish, but it's a tough start as well. A mixture of nerves and excitement. They are under starters' orders. And away we go for the 2015 Sandman Triathlon. An open water swim. For many, this will be one of the only sea swims they do all year. And a really quick start from Alex Foster. He's got a good line and he's broken away from most of the field already. Ross Hosking is one of the top swimmers in this group. Expect to see him. In fact, he's right there on Foster's toes. And those two opening a little bit of clean water between themselves and the rest of the field. This is where Ewan Brown has to improve his game if he wants to race with the elite. He cannot afford to lose even 30 seconds to the best swimmers. Paul Hawkins pushing hard as we go back to the start for the women's race. And with the absence of the Slateman winner, Susie Richards, the hot favourite is Natalie Seymour, just left of centre in your picture at the moment. The 29-year-old former hockey player who has switched to triathlon and is making a very good job of it. Second place in the Slateman this year.
I've never been to Anglesey before, and I came down for a swim yesterday and I just kind of walked over the top over there and just thought, this is just beautiful. It's just brilliant to be able to race in such an amazing location.
Certainly a big change from the hockey fields that she spent many years on. How will she cope with this open water swim today? There are one or two very talented swimmers in this field, and everyone interested to see how Stella Farah gets on, who's the new 1500 metre British champion for the over 50s. She also holds the national record, so she may well be the first out of the water. Livia Bella going okay. There's Natalie Seymour looking good in the water. And here are the standings in the series. Natalie Seymour, a massive 19 minutes 52 clear of Lindsay Griffiths after the first of the three races. And the first of the men out of the water, 14 minutes 36 for the 1,000 metres for Ross Hosking, the 19-year-old who's only been doing triathlon for 3 years. Excellent start from him. A few seconds behind Alex Foster, who led the field in the early stages. Third in the Slateman this year. Second or first, we're doing well today. Third man out of the water is Lewis Cherry, and just behind him we've got Paul Hawkins and then Ewan Brown, the race favourite, on the left of your screen. The swim not his strongest discipline. He is incredibly good on the bike. Expect to see him make up some ground on the race leaders, and at the moment, by my calculation, he's got about 54 seconds to make up on the leaders. Paul Hawkins also very good on the bike, so those two could benefit from each other's company over the next hour or so. There's Alex Foster going through T1. Ross Hosking, the first in the water. He's a brilliant swimmer, he's a good cyclist, but big question mark over his running ability. And Foster also losing a lot of time on the run last year, so he could do with a 4-5 minute lead over Ewan Brown at the end of this bike ride. He's got 60 kilometres to develop that sort of a lead. Here is Ewan Brown. What a season he's had so far. This could well be his last season in the Always Aim Try series. Talking about going to Xterra next year, but he wants to work on his swim and he's got to get his running back to full speed. Hampered by injuries over the years. It looks as though he's got a 3-course meal on the bars there. He's expecting a hard day's work. One discipline done, 2 to go, and his 2 favourites still to come. There goes Paul Hawkins, former Royal Marine, 5 years in the Marines. Lewis Eccleston out of the water, 2.5 minutes down at the moment. Remember, he won the sprint last year here in Anglesey, and he's certainly in contention for a series win if he can have a spectacular race here today. Out on the road, Alex Foster in second place. just settling into his rhythm on the bike. It's not a particularly hilly bike ride, but it is a long way. Beautiful roads. And there's Ross Hosking, a youngster who will be enjoying his moment of glory. He knows that the swimming is his best leg. Stella Farah, there she is. The fastest woman in the water. She's not going to win today, but she certainly made a name for herself, out swimming all the other female competitors. Lindsay Griffiths out the water. Natalie Seymour into T1. Every race she's gaining experience, and every race she seems to improve. There's Stella Farah making her way out onto the road. I think it's a question of when, not if, Natalie Seymour will catch Farah.
Keep going.
Dorothy Livia Bella making her way up towards T1. She's certainly an athlete who's benefited from the age group system used in triathlon, and she's had a lot of success over recent years. 2015 particularly good.
This year I've had my best year ever. I picked up a bronze medal at the European Championships in Geneva in July, so everything's going pretty good this year. To be here at this particular event in Anglesey, it's just a really spectacular location. You know, to swim in the sea is a bit of a privilege, really. It's crystal clear water, and then to go on sort of tour of Anglesey, you know, on monitored roads with you know, with all the other athletes, it's a great experience.
Stella Farah not even out of the woods of Newborough Forest, and she's going to get caught by Natalie Seymour. Seymour doing a PhD in psychology. She'll have plenty of coping strategies should Farah come past her at some stage. I can't see that happening. She looks very determined. And here we have Alex Foster. It's taken a while, but he's caught Ross Hosking, and he's going through at some speed. No chance of Hosking hanging on there. Alex Foster, now the race leader. How long can he hold it? Can he hold it all the way to the finish? The masses coming out of the water. The average time for the swim, 20 to 25 minutes, 14:36 the fastest time in the men's, and Stella Farah with a time of 17:33 to be the fastest woman. Many of the competitors will be glad to be on their bikes, but history tells us that this race is always decided on the run. You have to save enough energy for the sand and the trails of Newborough Forest. Welcome back to the Sandman Triathlon, powered by Sunto. The race leader, Ross Hosking, has been caught. Alex Foster has gone through into top spot, and he's being chased hard by Paul Hawkins, a man who was injured in 2013, recovered in 14, and is coming back to his best in 2015. Ewan Brown up with the leaders as well. He's caught up that margin of 54 seconds that he lost in the swim. But out on her own in the women's race is Natalie Seymour, who appreciates that the final leg of this race is crucial.
If you're looking to compete and you're looking to do well in this race, which of course I am, you know, you need to be up there and you need to be looking at who's around you and things like that. I think on a run like this with the sand and things like that, it's going to be tough for everyone, and you've just got to try and tough it out longer than everyone else around you.
Well, she's certainly not holding back on the bike ride, and she's not giving Dorothy Livia Bella much of an opportunity to catch her. Livia Bella has now moved into second ahead of Stella Farah. And in the men's, Ross Hosking coming back to form and going past Paul Hawkins to take the lead. But there's a strong group of cyclists up front, including Ewan Brown. And Alex Foster in there as well. Good work from the youngster. Here comes Ewan Brown. Now, he had a little breakaway in last year's race, only gained some 20 seconds over the rest of the field, but it proved crucial. Will he go for the same again this year? Well, he certainly upped the cadence. And Ewan Brown is making the rest suffer. Foster, Hawkins, And Ross Hosking still there. But now there's a little gap. It's only 20-25 metres, but Ewan Brown will seize this opportunity. Out comes the tongue, and he drives harder and harder as he approaches T2. He has a little bit of clean air behind him. A clean entry into T2, absolutely essential, but he knows this course better than most. Always attentive to the layout of the transition area. And he will have position number 1, having won the race last year. 1 minute quicker than he was last year on the bike. A 36-minute run last year, 35 minutes would be unbelievable. He may not be under that sort of pressure because he's away and no one else has yet taken their place in the transition area. Here comes Alex Foster just ahead of Paul Hawkins. Foster must be getting used to runners-up position with Ewan Brown around. Hawkins certainly back to much better form than we saw last year. Now a quick transition could put him up with Foster. That might be his only chance, but we'll see who has their running legs on at the start of this 10-kilometre. One of the hardest finishes to any triathlon. Sand and single track. It's energy sapping stuff. Ewan Brown, as always, straight into the flow. Well, you wouldn't have thought he'd had real injury problems. One of his knees that he injured a long time ago keeps flaring up. Alex Foster knows he needed a lead over Ewan Brown, and he's got to hope that Ewan Brown has gone too hard on the bike. Just 50 metres or so between second and third. Still Foster holding on to that runners-up position. And here come Lewis Eccleston and James Hocking. These two finished second and fourth in the Slateman respectively, so battle resumed between them and Natalie Seymour, who's just getting further and further ahead of the rest of the field. A supreme performance by her so far. How hard will she push on the run? The winner of the sprint, Greg Cherry, racing Phil Lines for the title of the Savage. That, of course, remember, combines the times from the sprint and the full distance triathlon. 2 successive days of racing. Ewan Brown not tempted into such madness. Looking for his 6th successive Always Aim Try series victory, and it doesn't seem that Alex Foster can do anything about it. Foster might have to think about defending second because Paul Hawkins is still there and pushing hard. Along the beach for a final time for Ewan Brown. He lives up in Edinburgh, so he's got Musselburgh, Belhaven, Portobello, St Andrews. Plenty of opportunity to train for this sort of running. That final right-hand turn, he's nearly home. It's going to be 6 out of 6. His success goes on and on and on. In fact, his last race he lost in this series was on this very beach back in 2013. Ewan Brown is the champion again. 2 out of 2 for the year. He's going to have a very healthy lead in the series. And just the snowman to go. Can anyone stop him?
I didn't feel brilliant, but you just get into a rhythm. And I know that as long as I get into a rhythm, my running's strong enough that I'm going to have to seriously blow up to stop. So I just kept going, keep going. And that course the run's a lot harder than it was last year.
Alex Foster finally on his own. He's shaken off Paul Hawkins, but it's taken a lot of effort and he's still nervous. The final few metres seem like a massive sand dune. He's finally made it. A time of 2:28.29. A margin of some 3.5 minutes behind Ewan Brown. a class apart. Paul Hawkins, he gave it his best on the bike ride. That might have put pay to a decent run time. 41 minutes on the run alone, and that puts him just over 40 seconds behind Alex Foster.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my favourite races. Last year was brilliant. This year was, I guess, better because I finished a place higher.
You know, it was a draining day. The swim was really tough with a lot of wind, a lot of chop, which broke the race. And the bike was quite tough in places. Starting the one I was nailed. Never mind the sand. So yeah, the sand was just the ice on the cake to trash the legs.
So here are the results. Brown, Foster, Hawkins on the podium, and what a battle between Hockin and Dyson, just 3 seconds apart for 4th and 5th. And no doubt about the winner in the women's event, former hockey player Natalie Seymour. The transition to triathlon is completed with this victory here in Anglesey. Where will she go from here? More Commonwealth success? Well, maybe a bit of work needed in the swim. She certainly has the determination. A big, big victory for her.
Once I got into the run, I just wanted to enjoy it really and just try and keep hurting and keep pushing on. And I knew it'd be tough, but I'm really chuffed with that performance. It's just, yeah, it feels like a long time coming.
Phil Lines coming in towards the finish. One of 25 competitors to compete both the sprint and the full distance. He's the first of the Savage athletes to cross the line in the full distance, but he lost 4 minutes to Greg Cherry on the first race, and he's only gained 1 back. So Greg Cherry is the Savage champion for 2015. And Helen Talbot, outstanding in the sprint, 2nd place overall in the full distance. She wins the Savage title for the women. Dorothy Livia Bella on the podium for the full triathlon in 3rd place today. So let's look at the positions. Natalie Seymour totally dominant. 2:44.23 the winning time. 16 minutes plus clear of Helen Talbot, and Livia Bella in 3rd. In the series, Ewan Brown pulling ahead, now 6:58 clear, and Natalie Seymour an advantage of over 40 minutes. And with only 1 race remaining in the series, surely her place in the Nevis Triathlon is just about in the bag. What a race she's had, what a race they've all had. This triathlon certainly is hard enough that finishing is not a certainty, and when you throw in the views and the atmosphere, the race pretty much tops the bill. And so many of these athletes will be back for the Sandman Triathlon next year.